Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Project LS400, where I continue to work on my 1993 Lexus LS400. This is episode 6, and this episode will all be about cleaning. You'll see me vacuum the engine bay, you'll see me watering my radiator from the wrong side, and I even invent a new cleaning device. So stay tuned. So here's my fun little side project. I've got this old spark plug. I want to grind this edge off so I can take the ceramic part out. Cut the outer electrode off. Solder a piece of pipe in here. And then attach some kind of garden hose to my vacuum cleaner so I can screw it in and let the vacuum cleaner run meanwhile. And I hope so I can clean up the threads in the cylinder head and soak up all the debris that might otherwise fall into the cylinder. So off we go. First step is to cut off this small edge that is crimped around the ceramic part, holds it in place. Well, it didn't succeed with using the small battery powered angle grinder, so I ended using my grinding stone and ground away this little edge. And now lay it down for a second, one moment. This is what we have. This is what I'm going to use. Put this piece of pipe in there, solder it in, and attach a piece of hose. So next up is soldering this one in. And then I ended up with this. Throw the ceramic core away. I soldered a piece of pipe in, piece of garden hose, a standard water coupling. The other side goes into my vacuum cleaner hose, clicks on here so it can move around when I turn that. So I think that turned out nice. I'm curious to see how this works. So cleaning it is for this episode. When I go along and clean under the hood in the engine bay, there are two main principles I like to stick to. One is to clean dry dirt using a dry method. For instance, this oxidation you have is very powder-like. There's some sand residue, some mud residue. Where that is dry and clean dirt, so not oily, not moisture, I like to use a vacuum cleaner and a brush. And when I'm about to clean the dirtier parts, I'll try to take off the part as one piece. I'll try to use as little as possible brake clean. I prefer to use WD-40, and I'll tell you why later on. So before I can remove the intake runners, I want to prevent that any dirt falls into the intakes of the engine. Here's one of the bolts, there's another one, and there's this crust of dirt I need to remove. I'll do that by using a vacuum cleaner and this small, well, it's a brush, it has soft hairs. And after a bit of cleaning, you can now clearly see the intake runner and the cylinder head. It's clean. Most of the dirt is out. There were some places I couldn't reach, like around this bolt down there. But I think I got most of it out. Now I'll do the other side. And now the other cylinder bank is done. And especially that bolt in the back. It's now in the middle of the shot. It was hard to reach. The opening scene, I was about to say that I like cleaning. But I've been spending over 20 minutes to clean this out because it was hard to reach and all those hard and brittle LPG lines were in the way. But now we can unbolt the intake runners and let's see if it comes out in one piece. And there you have it, folks. The intake runners are out. It's a terrible mess down here. There's all sorts of crud. It's dirty around the corners. You got some sand and dust in there and there. Oh boy, carbon buildup in there. So what you're all doing all of a sudden in my storage room? Well, I'll tell you what has happened. The battery of my phone went dead, and I had no idea. But let me show you what I've done. This is what happened. The intake runners are off. I cleaned the valley. It was extremely dirty. Unfortunately, our attempt to keep the intakes clean and free of sand didn't entirely succeed. Some grains of sand got all into all of the intakes, but I used a vacuum cleaner and my air gun to blow it out. It came off fairly clean, and now I pulled the valve cover on the left cylinder bank off. Does it look gold and brown to you? Well, that's because it is. It's dirty inside, a bit dirtier than I expected. You can have a look at the back side of this cam lobes. There's varnish on there. So decided to give a car an oil change anyway, or maybe add a cleaning agent to the oil that's in there right now and do an oil change later. Also, this is the crud, the tar-like stuff that's on the intake runners. So I have a lot of cleaning to do. So this is where we are at the moment. I'll also show you my invention, the spark plug hole vacuum cleaner. So here's my spark plug vacuum cleaning device invention. I shorten the hose. This piece slides into my vacuum cleaner, and then I'll click it on and it can rotate freely. Add a drop of WD-40 on the threads. I run the threads over my wire wheel, the brush, so I have the sharp edges off. And it's important to do this on a cylinder where the intake or the outlet valves are open. In this case, cylinder number 3. Maybe you can see it, the lobes are pushing the intake valves open. So now I'll start a vacuum cleaner, slide it in there, and you can hear it attach, suck itself into the spark plug hole. And maybe you can hear, I'll help remove this piece of towel so it has free air, it can suck in air freely. So let's see how it goes. Turn it in all the way. It goes fairly easy because the WD-40 is lubricating. It's in all the way. Put that aside, pull it out. And now the idea is to have this spark plug thread in the inside of the cylinder to have it clean. Hopefully, I'll check with my borescope later on. The right hand side valve cover is off. It was quite a struggle because of the wiring loom and the bracket back there. It's hard to pull off. Only a small amount of debris got on the cam lobes. Funny thing is, I'll show you a side straight from the front. The funny thing is that the varnish on the right cylinder bank, the right hand side, seems to be much less. It has like a gold tan. When I step in front of the car, you can see that in the shot that the left hand side is much darker, much browner, much more varnished. And I really have no idea why it is, why it could be. So if any of you has an explanation, well, please let me know down below in the comments. So we're almost at the point where we can start rebuilding the engine. That is, start putting parts back. The only thing I need to do is check the valve latch. I'm not doing that today because it's late in the Sunday and I promised the missus and the kids would go to the forest for a walk. So that's up next after a cup of coffee. So I'll cover this up and leave it for now, and I'll catch you on the following day. So here are the intake runners I took off. This is clearly the right hand side, which was much dirtier than the left hand side. Also took the valve covers home, cleaning them up. Currently the bolts are soaking in rust buster. Cleaned them out on a wire wheel. And now I'm in the process of removing those injectors, which come out as these small brass inserts. They have 3 small holes. Let's see, the camera will focus. Three small holes that pour out the gas into the intake runner. I had the idea of welding those small holes up. As you can see here, they're drilled, tapped in there, welding them up. But I'm afraid the mating surface to the cylinder head may start to warp, causing leaks. So I now have the idea of buying those small inserts with an Allen key, a small, I think 3 or 4 mil Allen key. You can screw them in, use a bit of Loctite, heat resistant Loctite, so I'm sure no false air is drawn through these holes. And also I noticed these lines, there's a date on there, they're from January 2007, so they're getting almost 15 years old this year. Was about time they got replaced too, I guess. Well, dear viewers, as I was working on the intake runners, I was cleaning it up. A whole lot of sand and dirt came out. May have expected. There's also a lot of crud inside. But I wanted to show you this. I'm really astounded by the craftsmanship, in air quotes. Is this here. This is a small piece of aluminum. Now it goes down. There's a small piece of aluminum there. So what I expected may be true, that they actually just drilled a hole in these intake runners for those LPG injectors and didn't even bother to take it off. So most likely all the drill chips and cuttings, here it is on the tip of my wooden pointing device, just fell into the engine somehow. I really can't believe it, and I'll turn it over. 1 moment please. The great craftsmanship I saw is like over here, where the drill wandered. You can see they gave it a try here and then ended up in here. It's also the case there, there, and there. Oh, this one over here. So they just failed miserably. Also here, where they started to drill and ended up drilling here, there, and there. So most likely they just took the intake plenum off and started drilling away with the intake runners in place. Oh boy. So I'm almost finished for today. This is how the intake runners look now. They're much cleaner. I think I'll buy a small brush that fits in my electric drill, so I can clean out those corners where the bolts go, where the injectors go. And I also measured the threads in these holes. They are metric 6mm threads, so I'll buy 8 inserts with an Allen key inside, which I can screw in there. And then my idea is to glue them in place with Loctite and let them protrude on this side, and then have a grinding stone or something and grind them off. Or maybe I'll leave it this way. Doesn't hurt the airflow much, I guess. That seems to be working very well. Just plain old oven cleaner. Curious to see how this works out. So here are the intake runners clean out of the dishwasher, and I'm super pleased with how they came out. Let me shine a light in there. Look how clean they are. You can see some small oxidation forming. I have to clean it up right now. This, I never expected to come all this carbon build up, this crud to come out so easily. Another thing I need to mention is how incredibly well this oven cleaner worked for cleaning the intake runners, and I'm even considering right now to use it to clean the intakes in the cylinder head. But this stuff really, it works incredibly well. There was a decent amount of carbon buildup in the runners, and I sprayed it on, and immediately you could see it dissolve into the foam this creates. And this stuff only cost me about, I think, €2 at a shop called Action. I'll go there later to pick up some other cleaning materials. I'm not sure this is available anywhere overseas, but it's made and imported by this company, and I believe, not sure if I just said it, it cost me about €2. I'll check that later and fill this in what the price exactly was, but it's great stuff. Well, my new parts are in. I ordered a timing belt kit with a water pump. This kit cost me about €150, but it wasn't suitable for my car. Problem is it's suitable for the next generation, the Generation 2 LS400, and the only difference is in this timing belt, which is a tad longer because it has 2 teeth more. When I ordered this complete kit for my LS, it would cost me 100 euros more. So what I did is just order this 150 euro kit and an additional Gates timing belt, which only cost me 23. So I saved a lot of money finding this out. There's the serpentine belt, pulleys, the tensioner pulley, we got a thermostat, the seals for the injectors, spark plugs and all. Meanwhile at home I've been cleaning all tiny parts and brackets. I'll tell you more about that later. They all look like brand new. Cleaned it up, gave them a coat of paint, and this cover for the timing belt, the lower timing belt cover, and I also got the new coils over here, an interior filter and an air filter for the engine. So finally time to get things done. All parts I need are in. Yay! All these little bolts and brackets, these little brackets on the fuel rails, and brackets on here and on these sensors and all, they are all treated from factory with an electrochemical plating which turns them black. But all of these brackets were corroded, especially these on the fuel rails and this on this solenoid, this little valve. Not entirely sure exactly what it is. They were all corroded, so I put them in rust remover and they came out real nice, all clean, all rust removed. But also the coating was gone. You can buy these Japanning fluids which turn bare metal black and you have a very good rust resistant coating on it. But unfortunately those those Japanning fluids are not available over here in Holland. So what I did, I cleaned them off after I pulled them from the rust remover, gave them a coating with Brunox, which is an epoxy based rust reformer, and then painted them black with a rattle can. So everything looks nice and brand new now, and it really is worth the effort of cleaning all this. The small hoses I treated with some WD-40 so they're nice and black and supple again. It came out really nice, I must say. This part, these lines that run in front of the intake plenum are so significant to the LS400. They were a bit rusty. There still is some surface rust over here. I have to clean it up later with some Scotch-Brite. But it's really worth the effort of cleaning all those tiny parts when you put them back on. I also cleaned the billet fuel rails, put new washes in here, and I also bought a paint marker, so when I have everything tightened I can mark them off. You can see on the left hand side on the fuel rails, on the front connector line here and the rear connector line, there's a white paint marking that indicates the left hand side, so I can restore that too. It took me the better part of a Saturday to clean the intake plenum. I cleaned it off by using aluminium cleaner. Little flakes came off. I tried to sand these out. There are little dark spots of oxidation there, but I can do that on a later time. I took off the throttle body, but I let those sensors on, and this stepper motor for the traction control butterfly valve. Cleaned this whole lot up. The brackets in there, I coated them in epoxy rust reformer, as did I with this bracket. So now we have a shiny, nearly brand new looking intake plenum. Happy with the result. This is the tensioner pulley for the serpentine belt. Last time I had to replace this, I had to buy an entire unit, which cost me about 92 euros. But this time I found the wheel with the bearing, put it in, and used Loctite, light Loctite, to secure the bolt in place. Now it runs smooth again. This cost me 25 euros, so that was quite a deal.